Hello everyone and welcome to the back nine of round number 1 of the 2022 Throw Pink Women's Disc Golf Championships. I'm Terry Miller, the Disc Golf Guy, joined alongside Kristin Jennings. We've got our FPO feature card, and one of those women we're seeing up there in second place currently is Kristin Tattar, but right behind her, your reigning champion, Missy Gannon. Also featured on this card, Mertsch, who we see in a tie for 6th. And it looks like the front nine has treated many of our competitors very well. We're going to head into the back. Things get a little bit squirrely, though.
Hole 10, par 3 at 331 feet. This is a little bit shorter than it was last year. You see again with the rock walls that line the OB. This is a kind of a backwards hole 9. It's just the safe part of the fairways on the left-hand side. The basket kind of sits on a peninsula. You might see some players go for it, and you might see some players lay up on the left.
This hole comes in about 30 feet shorter than the previous hole did. And that is inbounds and about circle's edge for Kristin. And if you're new here, you may notice that there's a bunch of rocks out there in the fairway. Those are more of a natural marker that we're seeing this year as we're watching Mertsch drift back to the basket. Very similar spot to where Kristin is. And just inside of those rocks, they actually have inlaid the out-of-bounds line. So rather than having a line on the ground and then a line about 1.5 feet above it to denote where the OB is, the rocks are more of a visual, and there's no upper line that's been put out on the course. And you also can tell by the long versus short grass is also an indicator, as Missy Gannon closest to the pin so far.
Eveliina with the lower drive.
I was just going to say, hold your breath for just a moment, making sure she clears the OB, but she actually goes deep of the basket, and she's inside the circle coming back at it. Here's Kristin with a birdie look, slightly uphill. Notice the lack of wind on that flag.
Beautiful conditions for disc golf.
We're used to Kristin always converting on looks like that, so surprising to see it not go in.
Ooh.
Short.
All right. Eveliina snags a birdie.
Little dance party on the side of the basket. Everyone's invited.
You leave the party puns to me.
Okay. We'll see about that. I'll find my own parties, don't you worry. So a couple tap-ins. Making relatively light work here of hole number 10. I believe officially our Throw Pink signature hole out on the course when you first come in and check out the property. And now we move to hole 11.
Hole 11, par 4 at 598 feet. You might see a couple of different plays here. The fairway looks a little wonky, but it's not that daunting when you're on the tee pad, honestly. You're either going to see a layup shot or a farther drive from the FPO players, and depending on where they land, they're just trying to keep it in bounds. All of these little pockets you see are hazards, which means that they would play from where they lie, where their lie is, rather than taking it back inbounds from where it was.
And also assessed a 1-stroke penalty if they find themselves in that long grass. And Missy's going to check up perfectly off to the left side. That'll give her options for a second shot.
Yeah, and that's typically where you're going to see the FPO players going, just over that first pocket before the second pocket.
Now neighbors with Missy is where we'll find Eveliina.
Oh, no.
Another slip. We saw that earlier.
Fortunately, she's in bounds.
That one's going to pan out, but hopefully there's no physical challenge or damage or any kind of injury there. And at a certain point, you might even start getting tentative on the tee. You're adjusting something. You're maybe anticipating it. And that certainly could come into play, so we'll have to keep an eye on that for Kristin. But all 4 drives here ultimately in bounds. That's impressive in itself.
The second shot is a little bit trickier. The basket is on a little bit of a slope, right to left. You have to go over a couple of these hazard pockets.
She doesn't quite clear it, so she's going to be just short of making it into the short grass. So that's going to be a penalty stroke assessed. Here's Eveliina.
Oh, this is looking good.
Yeah, if you've got this shot.
Oh, my goodness.
Question is, does it check up and sit down? And it does. You cannot play this hole any more perfectly than the 2 shots you've just seen from Eveliina.
Missy going with the backhand. You're just going to want to swing this high and right. Let the disc and gravity do the work. Perfect.
She made it look easy, but for a backhand righty thrower to play up on that hillside but then come in with just the right amount of speed is so much more difficult than she made it look. And that's where this forehand comes into play and is really the optimal shot if you have it. And that's going to put her at the bottom, putting slightly uphill from inside the circle. You see a little bit of wind pickup, but also great positioning there for Kat. Now here's Kristin. She can save her par with a conversion here.
2 putts low in a row. Just a little timid.
Great to see Eveliina convert from short range. Sometimes we know that can be her kryptonite out on the course. That short range distance is where she can struggle, but no problems this time. Both Eveliina and Missy off to great starts here in the back 9.
Hole 12, par 5 at 901 feet. This is a really fun tee shot. You're really just trying to get as much distance as possible. You do see that little bit of an OB circle right here that we're flying over. There's also OB on the left and OB on the right. So really just trying to get where that other tee pad was that we just flew over. The approach, there's a couple of different ways to attack. You'll see some people bail out on the left-hand side here, short in the fairway to throw a 3rd shot to the basket, and you might see some players go for the basket on the 2nd tee shot. Really difficult green as it does slope off to the right. You do see some discs trickling into the OB.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting distinction that on the previous hole when you found yourself inside the rock structure and the longer grass, that's considered a hazard. You take a penalty and you throw it from there. In the middle of this fairway, we have an actual OB. So if you land in the long grass in the middle of this fairway, it's an out-of-bounds stroke, and you play it differently than you would as if it were a hazard. You still get a 1-stroke penalty, but how it's played is different. And that's one of the biggest challenges to playing Winthrop is you almost need a college degree from Winthrop to understand all of the rules that are in the caddy guide. It's quite complicated, honestly.
Well, also, this OB on this fairway is stroke and distance. So if you go OB, you can't even cross it. You can't bring it back in from where that disc had landed OB. You have to essentially just rethrow. Kat's looking for a flip up. Does not get it.
I think this is also our way of saying if we screw up a ruling later, don't be surprised, because it's quite complicated out there.
I don't think Terry or I graduated from Winthrop, so.
And coming up just short of the out of bounds area is Kristin. So safe shots here from this entire card.
You see Missy going for the layup shot on the left-hand side of the fairway. Very nicely done.
I'm sensing a trend here of anytime Kat Mertsch has been off her mark, it has been an early and or high release. And you're seeing them all leak out to the left. That one's going to be out of bounds for Kat. And that's somewhat of a consistency that we've seen is the high left releases from her.
I agree.
That's something she's going to have to adjust. Here's Eveliina trying to keep it nice and low. She'll get some ground play, but that'll check up nicely. As a par 5, this is averaged .34 over par and comes in as the 4th most difficult hole on the course. So
Wow.
5.34 was the average for all of our competitors on this particular hole.
Yeah, I think that average is getting raised by that stroke and distance that I was mentioning. It really makes it difficult.
And Kat might be flirting with out of bounds again.
So this is exactly what you're going to see. So Kat went OB left, but instead of taking it by that path where she went OB, she's just throwing again from the same spot.
Gaining no distance at all. And this one, high, pushing left.
Oh, bite. Oh, my goodness.
Bad airplay, honestly, too. I know ground play, she's...
Oh, my goodness. Well, and at some point, once you keep doing this, you're running out of discs that you really trust for that specific shot. So it gets more and more difficult as you keep doing it.
So now Missy can just barely see the yellow flag on top of the basket. Even that visual doesn't make this much easier. And it's very easy to be tentative. You come up short, you're out of bounds. You go long, you find out of bounds. And this was kind of a mixture of the two, and she's off to the left. So she'll still have a look. That'll be a long bid for a birdie.
And this is still a really tricky upshot. She's not that far from the basket, but with that slope behind that goes straight OB if you go too far, really tricky.
Eveliina not far from throwing it in for an eagle. Now a lengthy comebacker for her for the birdie look. Here's Kristin.
Nicely done.
Having that forehand approach and being comfortable with it from that position is so great because she's not throwing over the OB like all the other women are when they're going out and over with a hyzer. And just like we're seeing from Kat, she's throwing inbounds the entire way to this basket from that spot. So it's really helpful to have that forehand to eliminate one more possibility of going out of bounds.
Definitely.
And Missy wants no part of the bid, so she's going to pitch it underneath. And that should be a tap-in par.
Eveliina gives it a bid.
Kat Mertsch is in, and when it was all said and done, that is a 10 on hole number 12 for Kat Mertsch. Likely one of the largest numbers she's taken in her professional career.
I feel like that always happens at Winthrop.
Yeah, I mean, on the next hole, I believe we've seen someone take as much as a 21 in, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
That's another story for another day, but yes, the Winthrop can provide some very, very big numbers. But they're through the first 3 holes of our back 9, and as we take a look, a little shifting around, Missy Gannon has catapulted herself up into the top spot. Katrina right there, off to a great start, and Kristin very much right in the conversation. Laine had a problem there on hole number 12 as well. She actually had carded a 6, and so you saw her give a few strokes back to the field on hole 12. But now we're on 13, which is also a little different this year.
It is, yeah. So hole 13, you're just trying to throw a tee shot up to this tree on the right-hand side, and this is the difference. The green used to be across the street on a little peninsula of its own, but now it's tucked into some trees, and the basket's pretty guarded. So the second shot's, you really want to pin your second shot. This tee shot is really fun, though. It's elevated, you're throwing downhill. The path itself is inbounds, but if you're to the right of the path, where Kristin is, it's out of bounds. That's looking great. Fading away from the OB. Ooh, a little pinched on the left-hand side. There is no OB on the left, but it does get pretty hairy over there. Oh, looks like Eveliina's foot slipped. Causes an early release into the tree line on the left.
I was kind of had my fingers crossed, hoping we were going to see that hit the ground and maybe roll out into the fairway, but doesn't appear to be the case. We'll see. Now Kat has to completely reset herself coming off of that big number on the previous hole.
Beautiful.
Well executed drive.
So you see where Eveliina ended up. She looks like she's just going to pitch backwards. Doesn't make it out very far.
Yeah, anytime you have a layup or a sacrificial shot like that, you want to make sure it at least pays off. And she still has work to do.
Yeah, and this is a tricky shot too, because when you're trying to throw that forehand flex, you want to make sure that you're putting the right angle on it so you don't flex out into the OB on the right-hand side. Kristin with the long turnover to the basket. This is looking good.
It is, and that's a shot you don't often see from Kristin. She always has it either flat or puts it on a hyzer angle and pretty much releases it that way. And if she needs something that goes from left to right, she'll throw a forehand. But this time, that was a full flex shot and well executed.
Very much so. This is also looking pretty good.
Just behind the basket, and she'll have an opening. As you can see, a few feet make a world of difference in guarding that particular basket.
Kat just a little short, but it looks like she'll have a window between those trees.
This hole also comes in right in the middle in terms of the overall difficulty. It averaged 4.17, but is the 9th most difficult. So pretty much middle of the road here for our competitors here during the first round.
Missy just trying to gain some distance up the fairway. I don't think she was ever going to get it to the basket with that stance that she was in.
And see here again, even though she's just barely deep of the basket, a little obstruction on the left side, but looks to be still makeable. Here's Kat Mertsch. The window's there, but the follow-through might feel a little weird.
Yeah, this is a really difficult putt. Cans it. She looked like she had no issues with that follow-through. Great putt by Kat.
That is online with just the right amount of power. You mentioned we've seen a few that were low out of her hand when it came to the putting green, but that one on point. Missy will remain at 6 under. Of course, different course changes, another dance party, but that one also stays in. Of course, we have the different changes in weather conditions and whatnot, but last year, Missy Gannon won the tournament with 2 under. So seeing so many of these competitors currently under par, 5 or 6 under, is looks like things are going in the right direction.
Yeah.
Very short hole 14 here, Christine.
Yeah, 261-foot par 3. The tall grass is a hazard, and it comes in really quick. It's about 35 feet from the basket. There's 2 different ways you'll see this played. The forehand that we see Kat taking here. Oh, no.
Okay.
It was looking really good. Needed a little bit more height, or she turned it over a little much. See if Kristin can stick it. That has good height.
Oh, and gets a kick off the rock. It rolls inbounds and then back out of bounds. I'm not sure how much she could see of that from the tee, but that's heartbreaking.
And Missy's going to take the backhand hyzer approach to the right side of the trees in front of her.
She wants this to sit down, worried about it getting some kind of a flare or hard skip off to the left, but that stays inbounds. And Eveliina will do as she saw from 2 previous competitors, and this one's short and likely out of position. I think we're going to see her just pitch up under the pin from that spot.
You called it. Should see the same from Missy.
Yeah, this is just outside of the range. Usually I think a lot of people will use that sidewalk as their, you know, kind of their landmark as to what something they want to, what distance can they run at it from. And much outside of that sidewalk, you don't find too many people being aggressive still. And you see, even though she's pinned high, Kristin not messing with it, trying to salvage the par. Instead, she just pitches underneath and is going to be content with the bogey. Well, accepting of it maybe is a better word. So although hole 13 is one of the shorter holes, not doing our card any favor. Hole 14, that is. Anyways, now we're over to 15.
467-foot par 4 with another triple mando. This triple mando is a couple hundred feet off the tee pad. You're trying to land short of the grouping of the trees on the right that we just passed, and this is one of the darkest greens on the course. You're just trying to get as far as you can into the trees. You want to stay away from the right side because there's a lot more trees over there. You'll see either some straight shots through the triple mando, or you might see some players trying to fade left once they get past it. Oh.
And that is going to be a miss mando for Missy. Hitting off the top, and it carries forward. You need to navigate through that horizontal bar on the top, and that shouldn't be a problem whatsoever for Eveliina, as she's known for her very powerful low-line drives, and that's as good of a tee shot as you could possibly ask for.
Also looking great from Kat. That holds a little more straight, but she still got the distance to get past that grouping of trees. They shouldn't be in her way on her next shot. This is looking really good. Gets that nice fade to the left. And she'll have some trees to work with.
She could have used 10 more feet is what she would have loved. 10 more feet of distance, that would have made it wide open, but we'll see what she can do with it. But first we have Missy Gannon. She's going from the drop zone. If you've missed the mando, that's where you proceed to. And
it's about 300 feet from the basket. Slightly downhill, but you have some trees to navigate still. That was a really good shot. She left herself with about a 20-footer left.
yeah, she's got a chance to save the par, which would be very impressive.
Kat catches a little bit of a tree branch that slows her down. Should still have a look for a putt. Kristin with a lot of things in her way. She hits the gap between the tree and the bush.
Wow.
And gets herself in the circle.
Yeah, for having, you know, possibly the worst position, she made the best of it.
Absolutely.
Here's Eveliina, who can keep this nice and low. I love the low play because of that canopy that really protects the basket. You want to come in low. You have the trees to still deal with. However, if you come in low and get a skip shot or two, you could find yourself inside the circle. That's a solid putt for Kat.
Great putt. Missy for her par save. And she does it. That's amazing. Is Eveliina splitting the trees? Man, that's so difficult.
Making it look easy. Picking up another birdie is Kristin. And Eveliina will tap in. And with just 3 holes left to play here during the opening round, Missy Gannon, Katrina Allen, both all knotted up at 6 under. Holcomb, Kristin Tattar, both sitting at 5 under. Sarah Holcomb at this point having a clean round, no bogeys on her scorecard, sitting at 5 under.
We're heading into the gauntlet.
Anything you've been previously prepared for is going to get changed up in the next few holes. Plenty of tension starting on 16.
Hole 16, 342-foot par 3. It's a relatively straightforward hole. You're just trying to push something dead straight. You don't want to fade too far left. There is hazard surrounding this whole fairway. This actually lines, I believe it's hole 8. So that, you know, the divider between the fairways is where that hazard is going to lie. And this is flipping up nicely.
In fact, yeah,
To sit.
carrying a little too deep.
Yeah, you really just want to try to throw something straight or flipping inside of those trees. That one on the left-hand side, you want to go to the right of.
I don't know if the old flip and sit is a move that we like to use here in disc golf, but I think I just made that one up. Here's Missy.
Asking it to flip.
And sit.
It's drifting left and does find that hazard. That's the tricky part, because you have a lot of players that can reach the basket, but if you're not getting enough flip on it, you will find the hazard on the left.
And that pushes to the backside. Again, yeah, 342, slightly downhill. Distance is not the challenge here. It's being able to control it that late. That is the difficulty. And then when it's guarded such as this, we're going to find that Kristin likely will be obstructed. So Missy has an opportunity to save the par.
Oh,
What a
great
bid.
run.
You see for the first time the wind picking up just a little bit. Mertsch also off the top. These bands did to you guys, but quit beating them down.
Eveliina for birdie. Oh, just a little on the weak side. I believe this is Kristin for her par save.
Yeah, she had gone a little deep. The tree doesn't appear to be much of a problem, but either way, it comes up short. And if we're keeping track at home, that's the 3rd time we've seen her just short on her putt. So somewhat uncharacteristic to see this many mistakes by Kristin overall. Someone who's played so solid and with just insane consistency over these last few months.
Yeah.
But now they have a long walk over to the tee of 17 here.
Hole 17, it's only 249 feet. However, especially in this A position, this is where the basket's really close to the water. Again, about 15 to 20 feet max. You see some players going for the forehand to bail right and play extremely safe, as we see Kat doing.
And she's going to come up short. Doesn't get over the hay bale, so she's going to be assessed a penalty.
If you're trying to pin it, you really want to put that forehand wide over the water and really trust it.
And that is a great shot by Eveliina. Safe, sitting at 11 meters. Kristin's.
Ooh.
Oh, she puts too much on it, and that goes long.
And this is even trickier with the hay bales because now you have to throw the disc higher than you normally would because you really want to make sure you're swinging over it. You can't play a safe skip shot to the basket.
And what a shot
Oh
by
my
Missy.
gosh.
Forcing it over, and then it fights back and parks it.
That's the trust I was talking about that you need. That was a great shot.
And rarely do we see Missy go with a forehand just in general. So
Yeah.
fully committed, and just by a few inches, Kat Mertsch is low and off the hay bale. And if you've missed from the tee and from this drop zone, then you go onto the green for your next shot with penalty. And Kristin is on the green.
Yeah, and even from that drop zone, you don't see many players trying to necessarily pin it because there's more danger to be had over there by that water. Kristin for her bogey.
Oh, and that almost went out of bounds. And just the fact that she didn't draw medal is almost unbelievable to me.
And a triple for Kat.
Not exactly the distinction or the honor that you want, but that might be one of the most colorful scorecards I've ever seen, as Kat Mertsch has carded everything from two earlier in this round all the way to a 10 and almost everything in between.
Yeah, Winthrop will do that to you, unfortunately.
So the pain that hole 17 can provide shows up in round one. Now they're trying to close out here on 18.
18, a par 5, 647 feet. You're trying to throw, if you're backhand, a turnover into the fairway. You can see there is the OB that's lining the left-hand side. It's the tree line, and then the rocks again that you see on the right-hand side. This is a very, very narrow fairway all the way through, and the tee shot is the most daunting. The forehand is the optimal play to get into the fairway on the first shot. You'll see Missy going for the backhand, which is extremely tricky because you want to make sure you're getting enough turn on it, but not too much to where you're cut rolling off of that slope.
I love this.
Perfect angle control. Gets just enough turn, but not too much. Center of the fairway. Eveliina with the forehand. That's a great spot. Oh, that might not come back.
And not enough, as Kristin, what would normally be the very safe conservative play for her. In fact, a higher percentage for almost all competitors when you have that good of a forehand.
Kat asking it to come back. And that's the problem with the backhand. You really want to stay away from the water, and you turn it over a little much. Now, Kristin throwing 3 off the tee again, since she never made it inbounds. This one works out much better for her.
Yeah, and even nervous there for a moment, as that could have caught edge and still rolled a considerable distance, but it didn't. And there is OB on the high right side as well as on the low left side of this hole. So at no point do you get to relax.
Oh, definitely.
On
Especially
hole
on
18.
this shot. This is the most scary one.
Oh, no, and that's pulled out of bounds. Does it get any kind of...
Oh,
wow.
it stays in.
It has to be straddling the line or very close to it. That is crazy to see that by Kristin.
Yeah, especially with it being a par 5, you're just seeing a lot of safer plays. If you have a really good tee shot, you're just trying to pitch up to the corner, and then you should have a pretty routine putter approach to the basket for a possible birdie opportunity. It's a great approach by Missy. Another forehand we're seeing from her. This is a really tricky spot, the way she was pinched off by that tree, and unfortunately doesn't get enough width on that shot. A similar mistake from Kat.
Oh, no, just bleeding strokes here. Hole number 17 plays as the single most difficult hole on the course. Hole 18 plays as the third most difficult hole on the course. So there's no giving up, no...
I believe
Oh, no.
safe.
Yeah, okay, that stays
Wow.
safe. There's no rest whatsoever to try and close out this round or the tournament over the next couple of days, as light backhand seems to work. Does it stay up? It must have. Otherwise, it would have to run down there and mark an OB, but that looks like it's going to be safe for Eveliina. Here's Kat. Just got to play the right amount of skip in the wood chips, and she'll have an uphill putt to close out.
And Kristin did go out of bounds, so she's bringing it back to where she was last in. Looks like she tried to give it a little bid.
Certainly giving that a run, yeah. Eveliina uphill.
Ooh.
But it does check up for her, thank goodness.
Missy for birdie?
And what a way to close out your opening round of your title defense here at the 2022 Throw Pink Women's Disc Golf Championship.
Oh, great putt.
Results in a double bogey for Kat. Kristin, who is...
Oh, no.
And that's just pouring salt into the wound here. Hole 18, where she's actually going to walk away with a quadruple bogey 9. And Kristin Tattar somewhat falling apart over the final few holes. And we take a look at your leaderboard after one. Missy Gannon trying to defend that title. She's your leader after the first round of 4. Sarah Holcomb keeps the clean scorecard. She's 6 under. Katrina Allen and Paige Pierce right there in the thick of things. We'll see them all on the lead card for round number 2. And of course, you can watch all of that action right here on the Disc Golf Network. For Christine Jennings, I'm Terry Miller, the Disc Golf Guy. And from all of us here at the Winthrop Arena, we'll see you tomorrow for the Women's Disc Golf Championship presented by Throw Pink.